inside darkness, chased in way no they last. But now Jesus come find me, hold me strong, no look my past. How I go turn my back when him arms they open wide.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a pretty big step back in time. Thousands of years, actually.
We are. We're diving into Leviticus chapter 13.
And let's be honest right up front, these texts can read as, well, pretty strange to us now. Maybe even a bit off-putting.
Oh, definitely. The language, the very specific rules about skin conditions. It's a different world, no question. A bit of a culture leap.
It absolutely is. But, and this is why we're doing this, if you really lean in, there are some genuinely fascinating insights tucked away in there.
That's right. And they can, surprisingly, still hit home today. They speak to that, that yearning and learning part of us.
So our mission today, our deep dive, is really to unpack both the practical side and maybe the deeper meaning behind these seemingly obscure ancient laws about skin issues and purity in old Israel.
Yeah, and to figure out what they might nudge us, us today to think about.
And it's really crucial to get this from the start. This isn't just some dusty old document we dug up.
No, not at all.
Leviticus 13 presents this as YHWH. That's the name for God in ancient Israel, teaching Moses and Aaron directly. And it wasn't just about physical health, although that was part of it. It was fundamentally about protecting the community. Both physically and spiritually pure, right?
Exactly. Both aspects were intertwined. These instructions were foundational for their relationship with God, for the whole camp's well-being.
So like a sacred trust.
Precisely. It shows God's deep care for his people physically, yes, but also spiritually. He cared about their whole lives.
And keeping the camp pure was essential so God could actually dwell among them. That's a huge piece of context.
It is. It really reframes everything.
Okay, so with these incredibly detailed instructions covering skin, clothes, everything, what was the main point? What were they really trying to achieve?
Well, it seems to boil down to two main goals, and they're kind of connected. First, and this is super practical, protecting the community's health. You have to remember, this is way before modern medicine.
Right. No antibiotics, no germ theory as we know it.
Exactly. So you have people living really close together. If a contagious condition popped up, well, that's an epidemic waiting to happen.
Makes sense.
So isolating people with certain skin issues, that was pretty much the only tool they had to stop something spreading like wildfire.
So, like ancient public health 101, that's actually pretty remarkable foresight.
It is. And the second goal, just as important, was maintaining spiritual purity.
Ah, okay, so it wasn't just about germs.
No. Following God's specific instructions, avoiding anything labeled unclean, that was absolutely central to their covenant relationship with YHWH.
So these rules were practical health measures and deeply spiritual directives all rolled into one.
You got it. Integral to who they were as God's people.
Okay, this brings us to a really interesting figure in all this. The priest.
Yes.
If someone saw, I don't know, a strange swelling or a scab or some kind of bright spot on their skin, they didn't go to, like, the village healer.
No. The text says they were brought straight to a priest for examination.
Why the priest? What was his specific role here?
It's a key detail. The priest acted as, you could say, purity's gatekeeper.
Okay, gatekeeper. I like that.
His job wasn't really making a medical diagnosis like a doctor today. It was about discerning if the condition made the person or sometimes an object clean or unclean.
So it's about ritual status, communal standing, not just physical health itself.
Exactly. It had implications for their ability to participate in worship and community life.
So, okay, no microscopes, no lab tests. What were these priests actually looking for? What were the signs? The text is pretty specific, isn't it?
Astonishingly specific, yeah. They looked for things like swellings, scabs, and these bright spots, which often meant patches of skin turning, noticeably white.
Okay.
They also checked boils, burns, even something called scowls on the head or beard. Think like crusted, scaly scalp issues. And it wasn't just skin. That's what's really interesting. This holistic view extended to like infections in clothes.
Clothes, like mold.
Kind of. Wool, linen, even leather items. They looked for greenish or reddish patches, described sort of like mildew.
Wow. So purity wasn't just about the body. It was about the whole environment they lived in.
Absolutely. Permeated everything.
So what were the definitive signs? The things that made the priest say, okay, this is unclean.
Well, some key diagnostic signs were things like white hair appearing in the affected skin patch. That suggested it wasn't just superficial.
Deeper problem.
Right. or if the infection itself looked deeper than the skin, again, suggesting something more pervasive than just a surface rash.
Okay.
And crucially, if the condition was visibly spreading over time, that was a big one, active growth.
Active growth, okay.
Oh, and the presence of raw flesh based in an open weeping sore, that was seen as a critical sign of a chronic, active, unclean state.
That's incredibly detailed observation for that time. Really meticulous.
It is.
But there's that one part that always seems so strange, that exception.
Yes. The counterintuitive one.
Right. If the infection spread and covered the person's entire body and it all turned white, they were declared clean. How does that work?
It seems completely backwards, doesn't it? You'd think maximum visible problem equals maximum uncleanness.
Exactly.
But the common thinking among scholars is this likely meant the condition had maybe run its course, or it had become so generalized, so widespread, that it wasn't seen as an active, localized spreading threat in the same way anymore.
Huh. So the main driver for the unclean declaration was the risk of it spreading further. Active contagion.
That seems to be the key concern, yes. If that specific kind of active spreading risk seemed over, even if the person looked, well, entirely afflicted, the immediate public health need for isolation might have been considered past.
Okay, that reframes it a bit. Less about how bad it looked, more about the active danger to others. Got it.
Makes a bit more sense through that lens.
So once the priest made a call, either, suspicious, let's watch this, or, yep, definitely unclean, what happened next? What did that mean for the person?
Oh, the consequences were huge, life-changing, and very, very public. If it was just suspicious, maybe not immediately conclusive, the priest would quarantine them, put them aside for 7 days.
A waiting period.
Yes. And sometimes they'd extend it for another 7 days if things were still unclear. A real period of anxious waiting, you can imagine.
Yeah, for them and their whole family, surely. Intense.
Totally. But if they were definitively pronounced unclean, then the rules were incredibly strict and, frankly, humiliating.
Okay, like what?
Their clothes had to be torn. That was a known sign of mourning or deep distress.
Right.
Their hair had to be unbound, just let loose. Another public symbol of grief or disorder.
Okay.
They had to cover their upper lip, the mustache area. Maybe a sign of shame, or maybe even a practical thing, like trying to prevent breath contamination. Scholars debate that.
Interesting.
And then the most dramatic part, they were required to shout out, "Unclean, unclean," if they came near anyone else.
Wow, just constantly announcing their status.
Constantly. A walking public warning sign, a human marker of danger.
Unclean, unclean. Just hearing those words, you can almost feel the isolation, the separation. It's brutal.
It was absolutely a severing, because the next step was they had to live in isolation outside the camp.
Outside the camp. For how long?
For however long the condition lasted. That phrase, outside the camp, it paints such a vivid picture, doesn't it? A boundary line drawn in the dust.
Yeah, so it's physical isolation.
Physical, yes, but also social isolation. And crucially, ritual isolation. Cut off from normal community life, cut off from participating in worship.
That must have been incredibly lonely. Psychologically devastating.
Unimaginably so, I think. Complete separation from everything and everyone they knew.
And you mentioned this holistic thing earlier. It applied to their environment, too. Those infected clothes or leather items.
Yes, exactly. Same kind of radical approach. Those items, the ones with the greenish or reddish mildew, they were quarantined too, inspected, washed. But if the infection spread after washing or just wouldn't go away,
What then?
the item had to be burned, utterly destroyed by fire.
Burned. Wow, that's a serious commitment to getting rid of any potential source of contamination. No half measures.
None at all. Purging it completely from the community.
Okay, this paints such a stark picture. Isolation, public shame, destroying possessions. It sounds so final.
Yeah.
Almost hopeless. Was it always hopeless? Was there ever a way back if someone actually got better?
And that is such a critical point. Because, yes, absolutely yes, YHWH provided a way back.
Okay, good. Because it sounds incredibly harsh otherwise.
This is harsh, yes, but not necessarily permanent. That stark picture of isolation wasn't always the end of the story. God's mercy is woven right into these laws, too.
That's a really important balance to see. So if someone recovered, how did they get back in? What was the process for ritual cleansing and rejoining the community? How did you come back from being outside the camp?
Right. If someone did recover from one of these skin conditions, there was a very specific, very symbolic process they had to go through for ritual cleansing.
Okay, what did that involve?
Often it involved washing their clothes thoroughly. and in many cases, shaving off all their hair. Body, head, beard, everything.
Shaving everything. Wow.
Yeah, although interestingly, there were some exceptions. Like for that scowl condition on the head, the text says the affected spot itself wasn't shaved. Little details like that.
But these actions, washing, shaving, they weren't just about hygiene, were they?
No, not primarily. They were specific, visible, symbolic actions. They signified a profound change in status, from unclean back to clean.
So after they did these things, these specific, maybe kind of humbling actions,
Yeah.
could they just walk back into the camp?
Almost. First, the priest had to examine them again.
The gatekeeper checks again.
Exactly. And only after the priest officially declared them clean could they re-enter the camp and fully, truly rejoin the community.
Okay.
This whole process, you could call it the washing of restoration. It was a clear, tangible pathway back to belonging.
The washing of restoration. I like that.
It really highlights God's mercy operating right alongside his demand for purity. It made a real way for reconciliation, for reintegration.
That's a really powerful dynamic. Demanding purity, yes, but also building in this meticulous path for restoration. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. We've walked through the diagnosis, the isolation, the way back. What does all of this tell us about how ancient Israel saw God? What does Leviticus 13 reveal about YHWH's character? Because these rules feel so foreign, but they obviously shape their entire world.
Oh, they were absolutely foundational. And they reveal several, I think, really key aspects of YHWH's character as they understood him.
Like what?
First, pretty unmistakably, he's a God of holiness and purity. Absolute holiness.
Right.
He requires a pure camp, a pure people, if his presence is going to dwell right there among them. So these rules were essential. They prevented the kind of defilement that would essentially break that relationship, force his presence away.
So his very presence demanded this level of purity. It wasn't just arbitrary.
That seems to be the idea. Second, he comes across as a God of order and wisdom.
Oh.
Well, these aren't just random, bizarre rules thrown together. They're incredibly detailed. They're systematic. It's almost like an ancient public health code mixed with ritual law.
Yeah, the detail is striking.
It shows a God who cares about managing disease, yes, but also maintaining social order, looking out for both physical and spiritual well-being, and doing it in a very organized, thought-through way.
Right, a God who brings structure to potential chaos. It's a powerful image.
It is. And third, and this is so important, especially after hearing about the isolation, he's also shown as a compassionate and redemptive God.
Because of the path back.
Exactly. While he demanded separation for uncleanness, and that separation was necessary for the community's health and spiritual integrity, he always provides that clear path back: cleansing, healing, reintegration.
So his ultimate goal isn't punishment, or just kicking people out forever.
No, it seems his desire is always for restoration, for fellowship, not permanent exclusion.
That desire for reconciliation really comes through when you see the restoration process laid out. It makes it feel less like just a rule book and more like, I don't know, the terms of a relationship.
That's a great way to put it. And finally, he's presented as a sovereign authority. Meaning, his commands needed to be followed. Not just because he was powerful, but because obedience was the very thing that maintained that vital connection between God and his people.
Oh, well.
Israel's whole identity was wrapped up in that covenant relationship. So these laws linked everything together: physical health, spiritual state, individual actions, and the entire community standing before God.
It really is striking how interwoven all those things were for them. So, okay, we see how it reflects on God's character. What about the day-to-day impact? How did living under these rules actually shape Israelite society?
Oh, profoundly. It would have touched almost every part of daily life. Think about community health first.
Yeah, the practical side.
These rules were basically their public health system, their best strategy for preventing epidemics in those close living conditions. Vital for survival.
Makes sense.
Then there's the communal responsibility aspect, that public cry, unclean, unclean. It wasn't just about the person shouting.
No.
It hammered home the reality of contamination for everyone. It reinforced the sense of collective responsibility for the health and purity of the whole group. It fostered kind of collective vigilance.
So everyone had a stake in it. Everyone had to be aware.
Yes, which leads right into personal responsibility, too. Individuals were pushed to be vigilant about their own bodies.
Checking for spots.
Yeah, and reporting suspicious symptoms promptly to the priest. You couldn't just hide it or ignore it. There was real accountability built in.
Okay.
And the priest's central role role also ensured there was a structured response to these health crises. It prevented panic, maintained social order.
Right, a clear process.
And think about families. They would have been deeply affected if a loved one was sent outside the camp. That experience would surely foster a reliance on YHWH's ordained system, praying for that restoration.
Yeah, the impact on family bonds must have been huge. And what about the person who was isolated? What did that experience do to them, psychologically or spiritually?
Well, as we said, it was profound separation. That cry, unclean, unclean, was this heartbreaking public declaration of their status.
Right.
That time outside the camp, it likely forced deep introspection, maybe a real examination of their relationship with God and the community, and certainly an intense longing for restoration, for belonging again.
And then the cleansing rituals.
Exactly. Those rituals weren't just about getting physically clean. They offered profound hope, hope for acceptance, hope for being welcomed back. They reinforced that God's desire, ultimately, was reconciliation.
It really is this complex system, isn't it? Balancing the harshness needed for protection with this genuine offer of hope in return.
It truly is.
Okay, let's do the big jump now. Fast forward a few thousand years. This has been fascinating looking back at Leviticus 13 in its own context. But how does any of this connect to us, to life in the 21st century? What are the takeaways?
Yeah, that's always the crucial question, isn't it? How does this ancient text speak now? And I think there are some incredibly powerful, maybe even challenging takeaways for us.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, it really pushes us to reflect on God's holistic holiness.
Holistic, meaning?
Meaning God cares about our whole selves. Our physical health, yes, but also our spiritual condition, our relationships, our thoughts, our actions, just like YHWH mandated physical purity back then.
Yeah.
He calls us today to spiritual holiness in all areas of our lives, not compartmentalized.
That really prompts the question, doesn't it? How can I pursue holiness in my body, my mind, my spirit today?
Exactly. And it makes you think about modern contaminants, doesn't it?
Like what are the equivalents today?
Well, maybe things like our media habits, the information we constantly consume, our social interactions, are they building up or tearing down? The thoughts we entertain, the attitudes we harbor.
It's interesting how these ancient laws almost force you to consider the subtle ways we still perform isolation and cleansing in our lives, maybe without even using those words.
That's a great point. Second big takeaway, valuing community well-being. It's like a modern echo of cover your mouth, protect your community.
How so?
Ancient Israel showed this intense commitment to the group's well-being, even when it meant really harsh measures for individuals.
Right.
The isolation. So how does that challenge us today? We often really value individual comfort or privacy, maybe sometimes over collective health, whether that's physical health or the spiritual health of our communities.
That's a tough question. And are there spiritual contagions we need to think about?
I think so. What about things like toxic gossip, divisive attitudes, persistent negativity, unforgiveness spreading through a church or a group?
Yeah, those can definitely spread like wildfire.
So are there contagions like that maybe need to be, in some sense, isolated and cleansed from our midst to maintain a healthy body of believers?
It really makes you think about being mindful of how our words and actions impact the whole group. It's easy sometimes to, shy away from calling things out. We might call it avoiding confrontation, when maybe it's actually neglecting the health of the community.
That's a really sharp insight. Which leads to the third point. The need to seek spiritual discernment and cleansing, like burn the infected garment.
You unpack that.
Just like the priest had to carefully discern physical uncleanness, we need to cultivate spiritual discernment. We need to be able to identify sin, unhealthy patterns, damaging influences within ourselves and our communities.
And not just identify them, but act.
Right. Don't just let spiritual fungus linger and grow. Be willing, and metaphorically speaking, to burn the infected garment. Remove things from your life or your community's life that are spiritually harmful, even if it's difficult or costly.
And that takes honesty, doesn't it? Honestly, seeking God's examination even when it's uncomfortable. Being willing to see what's really there.
Exactly. No hiding it. Fourth takeaway, and this one is full of grace. Embrace God's restorative path.
The washing of restoration again.
Yes. If you find yourself feeling spiritually unclean, maybe because of sin or brokenness or failure, remember, God provides that path back. Repentance, forgiveness, restoration. It's available.
So don't stay stuck in spiritual isolation, feeling like you're outside the camp.
Exactly. Seek that washing of restoration through confession, through genuine repentance, through seeking reconciliation with God and with others you may have harmed.
And it often requires specific actions, right? Like the washing and shaving. Not just feeling sorry, but taking tangible steps.
That's often true, yes. Humbling actions are frequently part of genuine repentance and restoration.
Okay. And the last one.
Finally, number 5, revere God's authority.
How does that connect?
Understand that YHWH's instructions, even the ones in Leviticus that seem really strange or difficult to us now, they were given out of love, out of a desire to maintain a pure, vibrant, life-giving relationship with his people.
So even if we don't fully get it.
Our obedience, our trust in his ways, even when they challenge us or we don't understand the why behind them, that trust is still crucial for our spiritual health today. His design has wisdom, even when it feels uncomfortable or countercultural.
Wow. We really journeyed from these seemingly obscure, maybe even off-putting ancient laws about skin disease, all the way to these huge, timeless themes about health, community, God's character, grace, restoration, and how we live our lives today.
It's amazing how much depth is there when you dig in. From detailed rules about spots and mildew to God's deep care and the paths he provides for healing and belonging, even after profound separation.
It definitely makes you look at those texts and maybe even our own lives a bit differently.
It really does. And maybe just a final thought for you to chew on as we wrap up. Consider how often we today might, maybe unintentionally, create our own versions of outside the camp.
What do you mean?
Physically, sometimes, but maybe more often spiritually or emotionally. We do it to ourselves sometimes through shame or unconfessed sin. And sometimes, sadly, we do it to others through judgment or exclusion.
Yeah, that's sobering. So what can these ancient practices, understood in their own context, teach us about our really deep human need for real restoration, real healing, genuine belonging, especially when achieving that kind of health for the whole community might actually require some hard choices, some cleansing?
That is a powerful question to sit with, a really relevant thought for all of us, I think. Thank you so much for walking us through that today.
My pleasure. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope you'll keep digging into these ideas yourself. Until next time, keep exploring.
Jesus, for the love we get for me. Every tear, now him don't count time. Every prayer, him don't hear. Him promise they surround me. Him they faithful, him they near. Even if I still they stumble, now him mercy call my name. Jesus, I surrender. My life no go remain the same. Why I no go follow Jesus? For the love